Story 1. We need an end goal. It's not enough to say we want change. We need specific demands that, until met, the protests won't stop. I just don't know how we come up with that. Story 2. I saw a live stream from Charleston where they were organizing and getting ready to march. The police were right next to the protesters, and the two parties were talking and working with each other about what needs to be done so that everyone involved can go home safely afterward. It was very civil and honestly uplifting to see black protesters working with white police officers in this political climate, in a way that makes sure no one gets hurt and innocent people don't lose homes or businesses. Another protester got up and said that he talked to the neighborhood association asking permission to use certain streets and how they need to be respectful of the property because destroying it isn't going to help anyone. But then some foolish young white kid got up and said, "They want us to be peaceful. We need to mess everything up to get our point across." He was met with boos and blank stares. The whole stream was a great example of how the peaceful people in the crowd protesting are the ones who want real change, and the rioters don't care about the cause. They just want to watch this country burn, literally and metaphorically. Story 3. I want to start by saying that when I say Black Lives Matter, there is an implied "to" at the end. I'm not saying my life matters more, or your life matters less. Just that mine is equally important and, unfortunately, not viewed as such by many people. All lives matter is disrespectful because it negates the purposeful attention we are trying to draw to black injustice specifically. I need you to please understand that racism is not the racism they taught us in school anymore. Modern racism is giving black people higher interest rates or bad loans, which a bank was sued for millions for doing in 2017. It's realtors purposely not showing black people houses in nicer areas. It's companies only hiring 1 to 5 black people for their quota and not for their merit, which is ironically racist towards whites who potentially deserved it more, spurring more division. It's colleges only accepting black people to make themselves look good on paper instead of actually valuing that student's strengths and potential. It's enforcing laws in schools that don't allow black people to wear their natural hair because it is unprofessional and a distraction to other students. It's makeup companies only having 1 to 3 dark foundation shades because we are a demographic without money and thus not worth pursuing, and then suddenly coming out with more shades once they see how successful Rihanna was when she acknowledged us. It's crooked police purposely going into low-income areas, scanning license plates, and purposely ticketing people they know cannot afford it, so that they will go to jail for outstanding tickets and become a part of the for-profit prison pipeline. It's fashion companies and movies using damaging stereotypes of black people instead of showing how diverse and beautiful our people are, thus instilling an untrue idea of what black people are to others across the world. Imagine you're from a place with no black people. If all the movies and shows portray us in a certain way, you'll assume that must be true. When I first started at my old place of employment, a very nice tech company, I had a black janitor stop me one morning as I was heading up to the office, tears in his eyes. He gripped my shoulder, his hands frail and wrinkled, and told me how proud of me he was. How happy he was that a little black girl was working at one of those tech companies. I hugged him and told him thank you. When I tell you I ran to the bathroom and bawled my eyes out. I was so grateful, but that is a heavy burden to carry. Not only was I working for me, I was working for him, for all my ancestors who didn't have a chance. And when I was let go 2 months ago, it hit hard because it felt like not only did I fail me, I failed them. I realized it was not my fault. A virus hit the country, and I was a part of a mass layoff. But do you see how race played into my emotional state? Something most others wouldn't have to deal with? So please, when you see Black Lives Matter, when you see protests, know that all we're asking for is change. Yes, we have civil rights, but why are you scoffing at us asking for more? Why are we expected to accept the bare minimum? As a kid, mind you, I was born in 1996, I was given the talk that my skin means I have to conduct myself a certain way in certain environments for my own safety, that people will fear me for simply having too much melanin, that I will be black first and myself second until I die. I am trying my hardest to create a future where I don't have to give my kids that same speech, where I don't have to pass down that generational trauma. If you have questions about the protesting, the movement, or modern racism, ask me please. I know it can be a heated topic, and the only way to change that is to have an open dialogue and educate. This is me offering the olive branch. Me saying I am hurting and still have nothing but love in my heart. Too often, we are too busy trying to share our thoughts that we don't hear others. Edit. I've gotten a lovely amount of responses. I'm in Boston and it's currently 12:13 a.m. I'm trying to get a semi-regular sleep schedule on track, so I'll probably be heading to bed soon. Please know if I don't get back to you tonight, I will tomorrow. All love and hugs from me. Thank you for making a girl feel heard. Story 4. Today, I flipped back and forth between cable news network and Fox News. It was interesting to see how the broadcasting was so opposite to each other. I am definitely against police brutality and racism. The riots and looting aren't helping, but I understand why it's happening. Try to be safe, everyone. Story 5. I just have to say I've seen some very negative things about the whole situation on some different subreddits, even my own city's subreddit, which I thought would be fully supportive. Turns out they are the complete opposite. However, there's been a whole lot of love, caring, and support coming from most subreddits, and I truly appreciate it. It means the world, honestly. Story 6. God. I remember 4 months ago watching videos of police officers in China silencing the Hong Kong protesters, thinking about how insane it was. Now I wake up and see the same thing happening to the Black Lives Matter protesters. Story 7. To all the people in this thread who don't understand what race has to do with it. Fine, take race out of the equation. Are you okay with police officers kneeling on people's necks, breaking down people's doors and shooting them when they aren't even in the right house? Do temperamental, easily frightened, trigger-happy fraternity members who fancy themselves a super-secret brotherhood sound like quality law enforcement to you? When an authoritative group is allowed to act with impunity, too many give in to cruel, animalistic treatment of people they have hidden or not so hidden prejudice against. Sex workers, drug addicts, the poor, the mentally ill, victims of domestic violence, and yes, people of color. Too many give in and not enough stand up to it. We need police reform. This is not acceptable. Story 8. I want to go on record saying I attended a protest in a small Tennessee town tonight for a short while, and while I was there, it was not the protesters who got violent. They were very kind to me when I asked if I could take and document, when I explained that I would not post them under my own name out of respect for the tragic event, and as I set up my camera. All they did was give me their blessing, nod, and go back to yelling down with racism, down with the Ku Klux Klan. What do we want? Justice. What was his name? George Floyd. And peace. Love. Unity. On loop. It was an older white male, a good old Southern boy who started the first skirmish. He yelled at the protesters, telling them to shut up about the Ku Klux Klan as they couldn't possibly understand, and told them if they didn't comply he would make them. When they continued to protest, he walked up to them and began to yell even louder. He jabbed a finger towards them, and when a protester did it back, defending their personal space, he screamed that they had better not do it again. Police surrounded the town square a minute later. Sirens on, lights blazing, as officers descended on the scene. The officers behaved as they should have. They separated the protesters and the man. Officers stayed with the protesters, even as they started chanting again, while others appeared to be interrogating the man. As I walked back to my car, the man was in cuffs being led to a police car. As I pulled out of my parking spot, all the police cars were gone and the protest had resumed peacefully. The protesters, while I was there, were not the issue. People with archaic views were. Story 9. I really wish I could go to one of these protests. We all agree that an innocent man never deserved to die, and we all can agree that we need change. It feels frustrating not to be able to stand out in the open with others right now, but there are plenty more of us supporting the cause, even if it has to be from home. Story 10. To anyone who plans to go out and protest, please remember to wear a mask, not only because of the virus but also to help protect you from inhaling tear gas and some form of eye protection. Swim or ski goggles are ideal, but sunglasses will also work to keep you safe from pepper spray. Don't be afraid to defend yourself if the worst comes to worst. Story 11. Here is a full breakdown from Campaign Zero about a data-driven and policy-based look at changes needed in policing. End broken windows policing. De criminaliseur de prioritise certains petits offenses. End profiling and stop and frisk. Establish alternative approaches to mental health crises. Community oversight. Establish effective civilian oversight structures. Remove barriers to reporting police misconduct. Limit use of force. Establish standards and reporting of police use of deadly force. Revise and strengthen local police department use of force policies. End traffic-related police killings and dangerous high-speed police chases. Monitor how police use force and proactively hold officers accountable for excessive force. Independent investigations and prosecutions. Lower the standard of proof for Department of Justice civil rights investigations of police officers. Use federal funds to encourage independent investigations and prosecutions. Establish a permanent special prosecutor's office at the state level for cases of police violence. Require independent investigations of all cases where police kill or seriously injure civilians. Community representation. Increase the number of police officers who reflect the communities they serve. Use community feedback to inform police department policies and practices. Body cameras and film the police. Require the use of body cameras in addition to dashboard cameras. The right to record police. Training. Invest in rigorous and sustained training. Intentionally consider unconscious or implicit racial bias. End for-profit policing. End police department quotas for tickets and arrests. Limit fines and fees for low-income people. Prevent police from taking the money or property of innocent people. Demilitarization. End the federal government's program providing military weaponry to local police departments. Establish local restrictions to prevent police departments from purchasing or using military weaponry. Fair police contracts. Remove barriers to effective misconduct investigations and civilian oversight. Keep officers' disciplinary history accessible to police departments and the public. Ensure officers do not get paid after they kill or seriously injure a civilian. Story 12. As a black man, seriously, this comment section is exactly why I'm away from social media these days. I'm deeply hurt by what you're saying, and before you post something, remember there are actual human beings with feelings reading your comments. Edit. A lot of amazing people commented. I want to say thank you so much for being an ally, and thank you for helping me with your kind words. And kind stranger, thank you for the gold. Story 13. I would urge everyone who is bringing up the looting of businesses, small or large, to attend a protest in their city if they can. I am from Louisville, Kentucky, and I have been to a few so far. Everyone I have seen has been peaceful and powerful. Looters and vandals have been separate groups who are using this chaos to profit. Story 14. If you're reading this in new, turn back now. You'll probably let some idiot ruin your night by making you angry if you don't. Don't say I didn't warn you. Story 15. How about 1. How many other police officers have as many complaints against them and are still officers? 2. Who reviewed all of these complaints against this officer and decided he could still be an officer? Were any of these complaints ever brought to the attention of the mayor or district attorney? If so, hold them accountable at the ballot. These complaints should be reviewed by a committee that includes citizen representation. If you really want to fix the system, start asking these kinds of questions of every mayor, chief of police, and district attorney in every district and precinct across the nation. Keep asking until you get acceptable answers. This would be far more effective than protesting or rioting. Story 16. All that's being called for is police reform, police accountability, and body cameras. I'm not sure why these are divided issues. The right claims the Second Amendment is to make sure we fight a tyrannical government. We can avoid such things by recording and holding the government accountable. These are the same people that demand that we reduce government funding. Yet it's only these people who demand that police have no accountability and the freedom to be above the law. The total flip on the subject is bizarre and inconsistent with their values. I'm not saying punish police for mistakes, and I'm not saying I hate police. We have issues, and we should work to solve them, not stagnate and demand inaction. Hong Kong is literally protesting overreach by Xi Jinping, blocking out all media and portraying the protesters exactly how the right, here in the United States, are portraying our own protesters. I'm not sure how this is a divided issue. But here we are. Story 17. The most evil outcome of this situation is this whole thing becoming a partisan issue. This should be the people making change, not Democrats versus Republicans. It's sad to see as many people against the protests, not just the rioting, as there are. Story 18. I love all the protests and support. However, I'm just tired of people thinking if I don't post on social media 24/7 or don't agree with destroying businesses and beating people up, I'm against the protests. This is going to hurt our country very badly in the long run, maybe for better or worse. Honestly, I don't know. Anyways, I still support the protest of how bad militarized police and the little talked about how much for-profit jails have ruined our country.